Every single day, millions of people around the world say the same word without thinking twice. I have a deadline. The deadline is tomorrow. I missed the deadline. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself why a word related to work and productivity has the word dead in it? That is because the word deadline was never about work. It was about literal death. And its origin story is one of the most chilling chapters in American history. To understand this, we first need to go back to the 1860s, right into the middle of the American Civil War. The Union and the Confederacy were fighting a brutal, bloody war that would eventually claim over 600,000 lives. But not all those deaths happened on the battlefield. Thousands of soldiers died in prisoner of war camps. And the most infamous of these camps was a place called Camp Sumter, better known as Andersonville Prison, located in Georgia. Andersonville was built in 1864 to hold around 10,000 Union prisoners of war. But within months, that number ballooned to over 33,000. Imagine a space designed for a small town being forced to hold the population of a city. That is exactly what happened. The conditions inside were nightmarish. There was no shelter for most prisoners, no proper sanitation. The only water source was a slow-moving stream that also served as the camp's sewage drain. Diseases like dysentery, scurvy, and diarrhea spread like wildfire. Nearly 13,000 Union soldiers died inside Andersonville. To put that in perspective, that is more American deaths than in the entire Revolutionary War, all in a single prison camp. Now, here is where the word deadline enters the picture. The Confederate guards at Andersonville drew a line in the dirt, or marked a fence roughly 19 feet inside the outer stockade wall. This line was called the deadline. The rule was simple and terrifying. Any prisoner who stepped on, touched, or crossed that line would be shot on sight. No warning, no trial, no mercy, just a bullet. Guards were reportedly even rewarded for shooting prisoners who crossed the line. Some accounts suggest that desperate, starving men would deliberately step over it, choosing a quick death by gunfire over the slow agony of disease and starvation. Think about that for a moment. A line on the ground that, once crossed, guaranteed your death. That was the original deadline. After the war ended, the commander of Andersonville, Captain Henry Wirz, was arrested, tried, and executed for war crimes. He remains one of the very few people in American history to be executed for war crimes committed on domestic soil. But the word deadline did not die with the camp. It survived and slowly started evolving. Now, you might be thinking, how did a word from a prison camp end up in our offices and classrooms? The answer lies in the world of printing and journalism. By the early 1900s, American newspapers adopted the term. In printing, a deadline referred to a boundary line on the printing press. If text went past this line, it simply would not print. It was a hard, unforgiving limit. Journalists then started using the word to describe the final time by which a story had to be submitted. Miss the deadline, and your article would not make it into the next edition. Your work effectively ceased to exist. From newspapers, the word spread to business, education, law, and eventually every corner of modern life. By the mid-20th century, deadline had completely lost its association with death and become just another corporate buzzword. But wait, there is a catch. Even though the word no longer means literal death, the pressure it creates is very much real and sometimes just as dangerous. According to the American Institute of Stress, 83% of workers in the United States suffer from work-related stress, and the number one cause is workload and deadlines. While Japan has an average of 1,000, 607 work hours per year, and Germany sits at around 1,341, the United States pushes past 1,791 hours annually, and the consequences are staggering. The World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon in 2019. They estimated that depression and anxiety disorders cost the global economy approximately $1 trillion every single year in lost productivity. Japan even has a specific word for death caused by overwork, karoshi. It literally translates to overwork death. The Japanese government reported hundreds of karoshi cases annually, including heart attacks, strokes, and suicides, directly linked to extreme work pressure. In India, a 2023 report revealed that 62% of Indian workers experience burnout, which is significantly higher than the global average of 48%. Young professionals in the IT and startup sectors reported working 60 to 80-hour weeks routinely, often driven by relentless deadlines. So here is the irony. The word that was born as a physical line threatening death has now become a psychological line threatening health, happiness, and well-being. Psychologists call this deadline anxiety. Research from the Harvard Business Review found that while moderate deadlines can boost focus and productivity, extremely tight or unrealistic deadlines actually decrease the quality of work and increase errors by up to 40%. In other words, the very tool designed to make us more productive is, when misused, making us worse at our jobs and sicker in the process. There is also a fascinating psychological concept called Parkinson's Law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for it. If you give someone a week to complete a 2-hour task, it will somehow take the entire week. Deadlines, when used wisely, counter this tendency. But when weaponized, they become instruments of control and exhaustion. Some companies have started to recognize this. In 2021, several firms in Iceland trialed a 4-day workweek with no reduction in pay. The result? Productivity stayed the same or even improved, while stress levels dropped dramatically. Similar experiments in Spain, Belgium, and the UK showed comparable results. The lesson here is not that deadlines are evil, they are necessary. Structure, accountability, and time management are essential in any functioning society. The problem arises when deadlines shift from being tools of efficiency to instruments of fear. From a line in the dirt at a Civil War prison camp to a notification on your phone reminding you that a report is due in 2 hours, the word deadline has traveled an extraordinary journey. Its meaning has changed, but the pressure it exerts on human beings has, in many ways, stayed eerily consistent. So the next time someone casually says, "What is the deadline?" just remember, that word carries 160 years of history, suffering, and a very real warning. The line was never just about time. It was always about how far we are willing to push human beings before something breaks.